Oracle, it's time to free JavaScript. Oh boy, who doesn't love Oracle? I would hope most of y'all at this point know the difference between Java and JavaScript, but in case you don't, we'll do a real brief history lesson. Java was one of the first languages to have a runtime, so you didn't have to compile the code to different assembly for every machine. Instead, you would write the code, and as long as the devices you were targeting had Java ported to it, it could just run your code. Java was created by Sun Microsystems to make it easier to distribute your code as a developer, and it caught on huge, like 3 billion devices huge. The Java wave was so strong that when new languages are being created, like, I don't know, maybe you want to have a dynamic programming language in your browser for some reason, the best way to build hype around it was to hook into the hype that Java already had. And that is why JavaScript was created and named the way it was, because it was universal and it wasn't compiled, similar to how Java worked. When it came to the syntax, the way you're writing, the behaviors, and the goals, Java and JavaScript don't really have almost anything in common. And that resulted in a lot of confusion and frustration. But do you know what won't result in confusion and frustration? Today's sponsor.
Hey, what are you doing? It's work hours. I'm waiting on a build. What am I supposed to do? Work. But the build isn't done. Sounds like someone needs to try a blacksmith. You haven't heard of blacksmith? Tisk. It's the best way to run your CI. They're literally twice as fast as GitHub Actions, and they cost half as much. Don't listen to him, boss. It's going to be way too much work. Good news for you. It's literally just 3 clicks to add it to your project. We'll use your existing GitHub Actions too. It's as simple as changing the image that they run on. Just to be clear, it saves how much? Should save you as much as 75% of your bill. That's what I saw at least. Don't you have to pay to keep the server running though? Nope, you can just spin up dozens of powerful boxes with no cold start, and you're only billed for the time that you're using. Thank you to Blacksmith for sponsoring today's video.
Anyways, it's been a long time since JavaScript was built and named. And since then, things have been weird. Sun got acquired by Oracle, and Oracle is very well known for things. This is a classic meme of how all these different tech companies are structured internally, where you have Amazon, which is very top-down, Facebook, which everyone interacts with everyone, Apple, where it's a small groups coming out of the center, and we have the fun ones, Microsoft, where everyone's holding each other hostage, and Oracle, which has an engineering team, and then a much bigger legal team. And this was consistently a problem, because Oracle, when they acquired Sun, was now the owner of the Java trademark. And here is where the drama starts. I don't know how much context this letter gives, so I'm just going to read it with y'all and add in details wherever I have to in order to make this easy to understand. Dear Oracle, you've long ago abandoned the JavaScript trademark, and it's causing widespread unwarranted confusion and disruption. Worth noting that Oracle and Sun did actually own the JavaScript trademark, not just the Java trademark. JavaScript is the world's most popular programming language, powering websites everywhere. Is this just HTML denial? Is HTML not a programming language? Let me know in the comments. Free engagement. Yet, few of the millions who program in it realize that JavaScript is a trademark that you, Oracle, control. The disconnect is glaring. JavaScript's become a general-purpose term used by countless individuals and companies, independent of any Oracle product. Oracle's hold on the JavaScript trademark clearly fits the legal definition of trademark abandonment. A previous blog post addresses this issue, requesting that you, Oracle, release the trademark. Unsurprisingly, the request was met with silence. It is therefore time to take active steps in order to bring the JavaScript trademark into the public domain where it belongs. I was going to call out trademark abandonment, so I'm happy they brought it up. I might have some disagreements on how they're using it here, but it'll be interesting. It is also of note that despite owning the JavaScript trademark, Oracle doesn't ship JavaScript products. It's not a trademark that they've ever actually used. So it's always been kind of weird that they owned it. Trademark abandonment. Title 15 of the US Code, section 1127 states the following. A mark shall be deemed to be abandoned if either of the following occurs. 1. When its use has been discontinued with intent not to resume such use. Intent not to resume may be inferred from circumstances. Non-use for 3 consecutive years shall be prima facie evidence of abandonment. Use of a mark means the bona fide use of such mark made in the ordinary course of trade and not made merely to reserve a right in a mark. And point 2. When any course of conduct of the owner, including acts of omission as well as commission, cause the mark to become the generic name for the goods or services on or in connection with which it is used or otherwise to lose its significance as a mark. Purchaser motivation shall not be a test for determining abandonment under this paragraph. If you want a fun real-world example of what these trademark things look like, here's a classic ad from 1990. There's no such thing as a Nintendo. For the Gen Zs and even some of the millennials in the audience, this might make no sense. Like, what's a Nintendo? Like, I have a Nintendo Switch. You might have a 3DS, but why would anyone call anything a Nintendo? Well, when the NES came out, it was often just referred to as a Nintendo. And then other consoles started to come out, specifically when they started coming out in the US, became more common to refer to all of them as Nintendos. And Nintendo was scared of losing their trademark, because if a term becomes the generally accepted generic term for something, your trademark no longer matters if the colloquial use of the term is to describe a specific thing. And in the case of Nintendo, if that had become the new noun for a game console, Nintendo wouldn't have a trademark that they could enforce. So they went as far as literally running ads saying that there's no such thing as a Nintendo, to call out that you should call their system the Nintendo Entertainment System. There's Nintendo Game Software. Also, notice all the trademark, copyright, and TMs in this. This ad exclusively exists as their attempt to protect their trademark. There's Nintendo Entertainment System, there's Nintendo Game Software, and there's the Nintendo Power Magazine, but there's no such thing as a Nintendo. You see, Nintendo is an adjective, not a noun. It's a registered trademark that identifies the high-quality products marketed and licensed by Nintendo of America Incorporated. So please use our trademark carefully, and never use it generically to describe all video game products. We thank you, and Mario thanks you. You wouldn't want to make Mario sad, right? Right? Apparently, escalator used to be a trademark. That's a hilarious one to lose. And Google is kind of struggling here as well, because people use Google to describe everything they do to find information online. Kleenex has held strong somehow, but yeah, Nintendo had a real copyright scare, which is why they fought that way. So that's an important detail. If Oracle was to come out and say there's no such thing as JavaScript, there is the JavaScript standard, but you can't just use our term for everything, that'd be one thing. But they're not doing shit. They've done nothing to prove their hold of the trademark. And in the case of JavaScript, both criteria apply for this bit here. Cool. I'm going to come back to the trademark thing in a bit, but I want to finish this article first. Netscape, Sun, and Oracle. The JS trademark is currently held by Oracle America Incorporated. How did this come to be? In '95, Netscape partnered with Sun Microsystems to create interactive websites. Brandon Ike famously spent only 10 days creating the first version of JavaScript, a dynamic programming language with a rough syntactic lineage from Sun's Java language. As a result of the partnership, Sun held the JavaScript trademark. In 2009, Oracle acquired Sun Microsystems and the JavaScript trademark as a result. The trademark is simply a relic of the acquisition. Neither Sun nor Oracle have ever built a product using the mark. Legal staff, year after year, have renewed the trademark without question. It's likely that only a few within Oracle even know that they possess the JavaScript trademark. And even if they do, they likely don't understand the frustration that it causes within the developer community. Use it or lose it. Oracle has abandoned the JS trademark through non-use. Oracle's never seriously offered a product called JavaScript. In the 90s and early 2000s, Netscape Navigator, which supported JavaScript as a browser feature, was a key player. However, Netscape's usage and influence faded by 2003, and the browser saw its final release in 2008. They were still releasing Netscape in 2008? What? JavaScript, meanwhile, evolved into a widely used independent programming language, embedded in multiple browsers, entirely separate from Oracle. The most recent specimen, filed with US Patent Office in 2019, refers to Node.js, which is a project created by Ryan Dahl, the author of this letter, in Oracle's JavaScript extension toolkit. But Node is not an Oracle product, and Jet is merely a set of JavaScript libraries for Oracle services, particularly Oracle Cloud. There are millions of JavaScript libraries. Jet is not special. Yeah, but legally speaking, they can make an argument, sadly. Oh, this is a fun call out. Oracle's not even a member of the OpenJS Foundation, the body that the Node project lives under now. Nor does Oracle have any involvement whatsoever in the development of Node.js. Wait, but what about the website? Because OpenJS Foundation is a little more Node focused. Well, the web standard isn't called JavaScript, it's called ECMAScript. And if we wanted to get out of all of this, we could just start calling it ECMAScript. But who's gonna fucking do that? Like, that's one of those terms where if I hear somebody use it, I question if I'm like being interrogated or if this is like some legal representative that I'm talking to. Like, no one says ECMAScript. Oracle also offers GraalVM, which is a JVM that can execute JavaScript, among other languages. But GraalVM is far from a canonical JavaScript implementation. Engines like V8, JSC, and SpiderMonkey hold that role. GraalVM's product page doesn't even mention JavaScript. You must dig into the docs to find that it supports it. Oracle's use of JavaScript in GraalVM and Jet does not reflect genuine usage of their trademark. These weak connections do not satisfy the requirement for a consistent real-world use in trade. A generic term. A mark can also be considered abandoned if it becomes a generic term. In 96, Netscape announced a meeting of the ECMA International Standards Organization to standardize the JavaScript programming language. Sun, now Oracle, refused to give up the JS mark for this use, though, so it's decided that the language would be called ECMAScript instead. Microsoft happily offered up JScript, but no one else wanted that. Microsoft's bad at coming up with names? Nah, couldn't be. Brendan Eich, who created JavaScript and was a co-signatory of this letter, wrote in 2006 that ECMAScript was always an unwanted trade name that sounded like a skin disease. Oh, Brendan. ECMA International formed TC39, a technical steering committee, which publishes ECMA 262, a specification for JavaScript. This committee includes participants from all major browsers, like Google's Chrome, Apple's Safari, and Mozilla's Firefox, as well as representatives from the server-side JavaScript runtimes like Node and Deno, both of which, by the way, were created by the same person, Ryan Dahl, who wrote this. Oracle's ownership of the JS trademark only causes confusion. The term JavaScript is used freely by millions of developers, companies, and organizations around the world, with no interference from Oracle. Oracle has done nothing to assert its right over the JavaScript name, likely because they do not believe their claim to the mark would hold up in court. Unlike typical trademark holders who protect their trademarks by extracting licensing fees or enforcing usage restrictions, Oracle's allowed the JavaScript name to be used by anyone. This inaction further supports the argument that the trademark has lost its significance and has become generic. Programmers working with JS have formed innumerable community organizations. These organizations, like the standards bodies, have been forced to painstakingly avoid the name of the programming language that they are built around. For example, JSConf. Sadly, without risking a legal trademark challenge against Oracle, there can be no JavaScript conference, nor a JavaScript specification. The world's most popular programming language cannot even have a conference in its name. Technically it can, but Oracle has to run it. You saying you guys don't want to go to the Oracle-powered JavaScript conference? Come on, it's a great opportunity. There's a vast misalignment between the trademark's ownership and its widespread generic usage. Quick thing on the term JavaScript being used freely, there is risk here. People have in the past gotten hit with legal notices from Oracle America because they had things like Rust for JS devs. This course got threatened by Oracle because it had JavaScript in its name. And every once in a while, Oracle America will actually send you legal notices saying that you will stop violating their trademark. So it's not like they aren't kind of enforcing it. It's also funny that Chris called out, it's going to be frustrating once the Rust Foundation comes at you as well. Rust for JS devs, double whammy. But yeah, like they are being assholes about this trademark. It's not just they're holding it and not enforcing it. They do kind of enforce it. So I don't agree with they have done nothing to assert their right over the JS name. They've tried. They've absolutely tried. Also, fun fact, me having JavaScript in the title of this video might be enough for them to come after me. Hope they won't, but they could. And that's the reason why this movement's important. Okay, chat's triggered me. Why should we care about opening the Java trademark for questioning? Because they own it. And they also own JavaScript. We can't just say, oh, we don't like it, so let's ruin everything for them. They're a multi-billion-dollar company. They will win. We don't want to put them in a position where it's us versus them. We don't want to take away everything that Oracle owns just because we don't like them, because it won't go that way. We will lose. We will absolutely lose. The way to win here is to find a way for them to preserve the things that they care about, which is the Java trademark, while at the same time carving out a way for us to have the JavaScript trademark be public domain. And believe me, I do not like Oracle. I'm not trying to be an Oracle defender. That's not my goal. I'm trying to lay out a realistic path to getting what we all want, which is for the JavaScript trademark to be publicly available and public domain. We don't get there by ruining Oracle's life. We get there by presenting an alternative path, which is what this letter is trying to do. Nowhere in this letter are they trying to challenge the Java trademark, and that was a good choice on their part. Free the mark. By law, a trademark is abandoned if it is either not used or becomes a generic term. Both apply to JavaScript. It is time for the USPTO to end the JavaScript trademark and recognize it as a generic name for the world's most popular programming language, which has multiple implementations across the industry. Oracle, you likely have no real business interest in the mark. It's renewed simply because legal staff are obligated to renew all trademarks regardless of their relevance or use. We urge you to release the trademark into the public domain. However, asking nicely has been tried before, and it was met with silence. If you do not act, we will challenge your ownership by filing a petition for cancellation with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. So to you, the readers of this letter, If you agree with us, you're encouraged to sign the open letter below. There was a big sign-in button that I hid so I could fit the article better. I'm probably going to sign. We'll get to my pushback in just a second. Want to finish this up first. If you want to sign as an organization with a minimum 25 employees, you can email companies@javascript.tm. In addition, we're seeking pro bono assistance from lawyers with experience in trademark law to help file a petition for trademark cancellation with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. It is likely that simply asking nicely will not get a response from Oracle. A legal challenge must be made. Reach out to lawyers@javascript.tm if you can help. That is quite a list of cosigns. I think I'm down. I'm going to sign. They can put me here if they want to after. But I am going to offer a tiny, tiny bit of pushback. The thing that we did not really talk about here is Java. The trademark that Oracle is concerned about is not JavaScript. They don't care about JavaScript, as has been laid out clearly here. But they do care about Java. And if JavaScript was to become a public domain name, that could put Java on shaky ground. And we've already seen this happen. Remember Oracle versus Google? This was an insane case that I was really tuned into and ready for the spicy take that everyone's gonna fucking hate. I already see the flame comments happening. I kind of side with Oracle on this one. Slightly. Ever so slightly. To summarize this case to the best of my ability, Google owns an operating system called Android. They acquired it from a small team working on it on the side. It was an open source mobile operating system that Google hastily acquired because they were desperate to catch up with iOS. An interesting implementation detail of Android is that it was built to run on existing phones, as in you would open up the Android app on your BlackBerry and then go to the Android store to install mini apps inside of your Android app inside of your other phone. In order to do that, they needed a language that worked on many devices. Do you know what worked on a lot of devices? Java, which is why to this day, Android is largely written in Java. To be very, very clear, Java is not a good language for operating systems, like aggressively so. But in order to make sure all existing Android code and apps continued working, they had to keep supporting it. And to this day, most of the biggest innovation in the Java world came from Google's desperate attempts to make Java work for operating systems. And it kind of succeeded. Android is mostly usable now, but they had to do a lot of stuff to make that happen. A lot of which is detailed in here. The important thing to know is that Java and the JVM, as they were originally designed, those were not going to work for Android. If you've ever used an Android phone that didn't update, which if you're using an Android phone, it does a lot of random updates, you might have seen the screen at the start that says optimizing apps, where it goes through all your apps one by one. If you ever wondered what that step is doing, it's going through all of the apps, taking the Java code and pre-compiling out the bytecode. So the thing that the runtime would normally do, which is take in the Java, JavaScript, Python, whatever other code, and then on the fly figure out what things to do on your computer with it. They pre-compile that step so they know the actual bytecode is going to be run. So when you open the app, it doesn't have to spin up a Java virtual machine, load all the code into it, start figuring out what that's supposed to do, attach it to the bytecode, and then finally do what you're trying. It can just launch the bytecode like other things. Google had to rewrite almost all of Java to do this. And that is where the issue is. While Java as a language is fair use, Java was not an open standard for others to re-implement. And Google's decision to, from scratch, rewrite the entirety of Java in order to try and make Android viable was a mess. And that is why Oracle sued, because effectively Google had just created a new language that was their language and their IP, just a different way to run it, that could significantly impact Oracle's business if they were to start selling it, or even just releasing it free and open source so that you could use that instead of the things you would buy from Oracle. And honestly, I can sympathize with Oracle here. The idea of someone else using your openness with your language's use as an opportunity to undercut you is terrifying. And they sought $8.8 billion in damages. This case was a mess. It went on for a while. The decisions flipped back and forth for years. In a 6-2 majority, the court ruled that Google's use of the Java API was within the bounds of fair use. This reversed the previous decision because previously Java and Oracle won pretty hard. But after a lot of appeals, ultimately Google won, saying that using the API is fair use and that the original opinion was that APIs may be copyrightable, which is what they pushed back on here. This was a huge case that has fundamentally changed our understanding of what can and can't be copywritten in software design. Yeah, but the important detail here is that the patent and trademark that Oracle has over Java is not on the strongest ground right now. This decision put their ownership of the Java standard at some amount of risk. And I can see why they would be terrified. I did see people curious why OpenJDK, which is an open source set of tooling and runtimes for Java, didn't have the same issues that were had alongside what Google was doing re-implementing Java. There's a couple reasons, but there's one really big one. Oracle owns and operates OpenJDK. It's that simple. OpenJDK is able to exist because Oracle owns it. I don't know the full history, but at the very least, from day one, it had some amount of blessing from Oracle directly. That is why OpenJDK could exist. So if we view JavaScript's trademark not just as this thing that they own for the sake of it, even though they don't use it, but rather as them hedging their bets, trying to maintain their ownership of the Java trademark, it might make a little more sense why they're holding that trademark. Because if JavaScript becomes an open standard, if JavaScript becomes public domain, what if I made an IDE that's like Java code for JavaScript developers? And I claim that I'm using the JavaScript trademark, not the Java trademark. That is blurry. And there's a real risk of a term like JavaScript going public domain, diluting the trademark of Java itself. This is a problem that companies like Nintendo care a lot about. It's why they're so hesitant to let people use things like the Pokemon term for other stuff. Nintendo owns Pokemon. They also own a lot of things in the Pokemon world. Like they own stuff. They obviously distribute a bunch of different Pokemon games. But now imagine something like Pokemon Showdown, which is a web app that's open source for simulating the battle system from Pokemon. Nintendo could absolutely go after them for violating their trademark, but they don't because there's clearly some type of silent agreement between them. But if they were to ever start making money on Pokemon Showdown, Nintendo almost is obligated to squash that because the act of doing that is diluting the universal understanding that Pokemon as a trademark is a thing owned by Nintendo. If other people can use the term Pokemon to describe things and it's not illegal, the term Pokemon no longer has as clear of an owner, and the courts see it accordingly. And the same arguments being used here, specifically this bit here. When any course of conduct of the owner, including acts of omission as well as commission, cause the mark to become the generic name for the goods or services on or in connection with which it was used, or otherwise to lose its significance as a mark. Do you know what would suggest that Oracle is trying to make Java a generic name? Making JavaScript publicly available as a term. I would make the argument that this second point, while already true for JavaScript, if JavaScript was to become public domain, you could then use this point against Java, which is what they are scared of almost certainly. I can't say absolutely certainly because I don't work at Oracle. I haven't worked at Oracle. I'll quote one of my favorite Cantrell quotes.
Do not fall into the trap of anthropomorphizing Larry Ellison. Because if you need to think of Larry Ellison the way you think of a lawnmower. You don't anthropomorphize your lawnmower. The lawnmower just mows the lawn. You stick your hand in there, it'll chop it off. The end. You don't think the lawnmower hates me. Lawnmower doesn't give a shit about you. Lawnmower can't hate you. Lawnmower, you don't anthropomorphize the lawnmower. Don't fall into that trap at Oracle. So, and in particular with open source, they wanted to kill open source. No, the lawnmower doesn't care about open source. The lawnmower doesn't think about open source. The lawnmower can't care about open source. The lawnmower can't have empathy.
I think about that quote at least once a week, but it's an important point to consider. The issue here has nothing to do with JavaScript. It just has to do with the first 4 characters of JavaScript. Oracle's goal here is to make sure they don't fully lose their trademark of Java, and I can see why they would be desperately holding on to JS in the interim. That said, there is a way for us to win still. If the cost and brand risk of them maintaining ownership of JavaScript becomes higher than the potential risk of the impact of this being public domain on the Java trademark, that could force their hand. And if this becomes a big enough issue, if we talk about this often enough and we push this hard enough, and there is a general understanding that Java is a trademark and language that Oracle owns, and the only way you can use the term Java outside of Oracle in your own context is if the word script comes directly afterwards. If we can find a way to push that knowledge and concept and ideally put it down in fucking writing, then maybe we can finally see JavaScript become a public term. It's going to be a fun battle, though. That's all I got. Peace, nerds.